folks, welcome back to 40 Years of Great Games, and today we're taking a look at the year 2006. Now, compared to 2004 and 2005, which are two of the best years of gaming, and even 2007, 2006 is somewhat of a low. Now, still, remember, that's not a negative thing. I'm not saying that 2006 is a bad year. I mean, compared to the 90s and 80s, it was an amazing year. It's just that somewhat of a drop for me at least. But there were still some fantastic games that came out this year. Number 10 is Gift Trap. This is a party game that came in a gift box with little wrapped gifts in, and you're like, what is this? Essentially, this was a game in which you put out 9 gifts on a board, and then you had to give a gift to each other player. And then players would say, this is the gift I really want, I'm okay with getting, and a gift I definitely don't want. You get points if you gave the gifts to the right players. Great fun, entertaining. The gifts were organized in like amazing, okay, and not very good gifts. A lot of fun, and they made several different versions of it. Number 9 is Shogun. Now, Shogun is a version of Wallenstein, which I mentioned earlier. Shogun kind of cleaned the system up a bit, made the turn order, fixed the turn order. While I don't like it as much as Wallenstein, the Japanese map I find a little bit more constricting than the more open Wallenstein map. It's still an amazing game with the cube tower and actions going on, a lot of fun. Number 8 was the revamped version of Warrior Knights. Now, Warrior Knights had originally come out years before this. Some people played it, but not many. This was a revamping, and this has since gone the way of the dodo. We'll probably never see it again. But it was a grandiose spectacle of politics and intrigue. It's almost similar to Twilight Imperium 3 on a fantasy level, but I would say that there was less fighting in it, and it was more about working through the religion and politics of the time. But still, it was a good long style game. Not one I'd get to the table very often, but a lot of fun. Number 7 is Blue Moon City by Dr. Rainer Knizia. This is one of the last games of his I think I have on my lists. But this game, which was based on the Blue Moon card game, which I did not like that game at all, but Blue Moon City just really brought that universe to life for me as you were trying to rebuild a city and maneuver around a city, trying to get these dragons to fly to an area, and then you help build different buildings, and if you're the one who got the most influence on rebuilding a building, you got better benefits, and buildings affected those around them, some cascading effects, kind of a race in a sense, the game, but a lot of fun. Number 6 was Battle Lore. Days of Wonder promised something big. And we were like, well, what could it be? What is this big thing coming? Well, it turns out it was Battle Lore. In fact, they said this was their culmination of the Commands and Color system, which had started with Battle Line, and then went to Memoir 44. And now we have Battle Lore, which added magic and mana. It's since been replaced definitively by Battle Lore 2nd Edition, but this was still a fantastically cool game and fantasy warfare with miniatures. There had been, as far as I know, almost no other games that did it. Number 5 is a game, and these top 5 are super amazing games. Number 5 is a game we talk about all the time. It's out of print, unfortunately, because of the IP, and that's The Pillars of the Earth. I never read the book when this game came out. I knew nothing about it. I knew it was about building a cathedral, and that was about it. But when we played this game, wow. From the beautiful board to the pieces to the interesting worker mechanism where you put them into a bag and drew them. So if yours got drawn first, you got first spot where you could put your worker, but you had to pay more money to do so. This was a nice little counterbalance type thing and worked really well and had really great mechanisms of collecting resources and putting different parts onto the cathedral. An excellent, excellent game. Number 4 is a game that started a new company and a new designer, put them both on the map. And today they are in the top of all games companies and designers. And that company is CGE, and the designer is Vlada Chvátil. And this is Through the Ages. Now, Through the Ages did not come to America right away. People were like, well, what? I want this game. It was a civilization game that was only 2 to 4 players and didn't even have a map, but felt more similar to Sid Meier's Civilization than any game had to up to that point, and I would argue even probably since then. And it was involved, it was deep. I think it plays best with 2, and a great new version of it just came out last year, but just a phenomenally cool civilization game. Number 3 is On the Underground. Now, this one did not get much buzz then, still does not. It is about the London subway and there's this one passenger who's going all over London, super lazy guy, though, doesn't want to walk. He'll go the long way around as long as he can ride a train. And so you're trying to set the trains up to make sure that the way he goes to those trains, or as he travels on them, that he uses your subway lines. Plays best with 2 or 3. Some nice thinky, not too heavily thinky, but some fun tactical things as you try to set your trains up properly on the underground. Number 2 is Hart and der Grenz. You say, I never heard of this game. It was nominated for the Spiel des Jahres, but this game has since been reprinted many years later as Sheriff of Nottingham. And Hart and der Grenz was about smuggling goods across the Mexican-U.S. border, and you were maracas and sombreros. Kind of stereotype game, but it was so much fun because you had these little metal suitcases and you'd say, well, there is 5 sombreros in my suitcase. I promise you, officer. And you could be lying right through your teeth, or you could be telling the truth, hoping they would think you were lying. And this concept came into full fruition in Sheriff of Nottingham, but it was fun, and I loved it even back then. And number 1 was another Commands and Colors games. In fact, this one was called Commands and Colors Ancients, from Richard Borg, and this one was from GMT. Now, initially, I did not think I would be into this game as much because GMT games tended to be heavier. They weren't going to use miniatures. They were going to use blocks with stickers on each side, which incidentally really takes a long time to put those stickers on. But this game is probably the best in the series. Now, it's not the one I played the most, maybe, because Memoir 44 is simpler, and Battlelore, the 2nd edition, really kind of has some cool magic and things involved. But Commands and Colors Ancients, they made so many expansions, and you can play so many of these ancient battles from history, and had much more depth than the other Commands and Colors games did. And it just came together and let you do sweeping ground battles where there was a heavy focus on leaders and a lot of more different units and just tactical maneuvering. I really enjoy this game. There's a lot of depth into it. So that's 2006. I'm sure I've missed a game you think's fantastic. Tell me in the comments what should be here and what's your favorite games from this year are. Let's go on to 2007 and the 40 years of great games. Until next time, I'm your host, Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.